All right, thank you very much. That's a great introduction. I just wanted to say thanks to the Massachusetts chapter for welcoming me here and for arranging for this awesome light show.
That's all I leave.
LED, I hope.
And I just want to get out of the way. Coming from, I grew up in New Jersey, and as a big fan of the New York-based sports teams.
Yeah, we
There's usually a little edge that's sometimes below the surface. So I just wanted to bring it out and say it's great to see you all. And I look forward to your tough questions later on. So I just came in from California, where I currently live, a couple hours ago. And I have to go up to New Hampshire tomorrow, where we're going to be making an endorsement in the New Hampshire Senate race. And so I had to go get a car. So I was at the budget rental counter and gave my license and credit card, and guy behind the counter said, "You want a Corvette?" And I said, "Well, might be a little big for a Corvette." And he tried to keep upselling me. He said, "How about a Maserati? I can rent you a Maserati." And so I said, "Well, I don't know what kind of budget you think I might be operating under, but if you have a Tesla, I'll go for that." And so he had like a pen in his mouth and another one in his ear, and he just threw them both down. He said, "Oh, that would be the best thing ever." He says, "Once we get Teslas, it's all going to be great."
Wow.
And
All right.
I say that just because Austin and I were talking just a couple minutes ago, and I think it's true that for most conversations that most of us are a part of most of the time on climate change, it's pretty bleak, and it's fairly depressing. It's really hard to go to listen to a climate scientist or to watch a documentary or to read a really thoughtful piece on the state of where we are from a climate science perspective and not feel like you have to take the rest of the day off, or you need to take a shower afterwards, or go pursue your improv comedy career, because it's pretty bad. But the other thing that's happening at the same time is that when it comes to climate solutions, people are excited about the future at the same time, and they're thrilled about the world that they're going to grow up into. Some people really geek out about smart thermostats and their ability to control the temperature of the house or the apartment that they live in from their phone. Some people are really excited about the fact that not only do they not expect to be owning a gas guzzling car in the future, they expect not to be owning any car in the future, in part because of ride sharing, in part because our cities are being revitalized, in part because of old-fashioned things like bike lanes or better sidewalks or more transit-oriented development. There are a lot of people who are thrilled about the opportunities that we have with solar and wind and demand response and energy efficiency, and the prospect, genuine prospect, of having city after city after city and state after state be powered entirely on 100% clean energy. People can see this as the future. They see it in San Diego, where the mayor, the Republican mayor, and the Democratic-controlled city council voted unanimously for 100% clean energy. In Chicago, where they're working on an identical policy, in Pittsburgh, and in a bunch of other cities, and potentially in a city near you as well. Let's go to 100% clean energy. So in that respect, if you look at where we're going, both in terms of technological development, the accessibility of a whole range of climate solutions, the affordability of climate solutions, things are coming together. Things are coming together at a pace that we really didn't expect. Just on Friday, there was an announcement in Iowa where the Iowa Utilities Board approved the largest investment in wind in state history. So for the biggest utility in Iowa, they will soon be at 85% of all of their electricity coming from wind by 2020. That one decision that they announced on Friday, the amount of wind that will be installed just from that one decision, equals all of the amount of wind that was installed in the state all the way up to 2015, when the state was getting 40, or had enough policies to get to 40% of its electricity coming from wind. So the growth rate there is enormous. In Oklahoma, which is rarely accused of being a socialist, communist, pinko bunch of tree huggers, they just passed California in terms of installed wind capacity in the state. So everything's coming together at the same time that everything's falling apart, as my friend Jamie Henn says, which is true. Because if you live in Nepal or the Philippines, or if you're living in Southern California, or if you're in Southern Louisiana, you know that what we've been reading about in terms of climate change is happening. It's happening with greater severity than we ever thought. It's happening more quickly than we thought was going to be possible. We talked about potentially reaching 2 degrees Celsius, maybe if we didn't do something by 2050. Now it's looking likely that it'll happen before 2030. And it's looking probable that we will go past 1.5 degrees warming, probably even go past 2 degrees of warming, which was said to be the point at which there was no return. And so that is a big part of our challenge. Not the entirety of the challenge, but a big part of our challenge is, can we move fast enough? Can we move quickly enough to avoid the worst? That's what we have to do, because we know that those two things are happening at the same time. Climate change, the impacts of climate change are accelerating. They're worse than we thought. They're happening more quickly than we thought. And the solutions that a lot of us have been advocating for a really long time are being adopted and implemented and installed more quickly, more widely than we thought. Great news and horrible news all at the same time. So what will happen faster? In that environment, the Sierra Club, I really believe, a 21st century Sierra Club is needed more than ever. So many of you are supporters of other organizations, as you should be. And I'm sure that many of you go to lots of different events, and at those events you will almost always hear that that particular organization is unique and exceptional. And in many cases that's true. The piece about the Sierra Club that is genuinely unique is all of you. Is the fact that we are everywhere as an institution, and that we, at our core, at the most base level of our DNA, we believe in lifting up and empowering and providing tools to citizen activists in every state, in every congressional district, in every city, practically in every county in the country, where we give our brand and a huge amount of resources to people who really know that they can make a big difference. But we also know that that's not enough. And this is the challenge that I wanted to make to all of you, that we are embracing across the organization. Just as we're becoming an organization that embraces an informed and determined optimism, not an idealistic, Pollyanna-ish, pie-in-the-sky optimism, but a grounded, an informed optimism, we also need to become an organization that is more inclusive, more diverse, to bring more young people into the organization, to increase the racial diversity in the organization, and in terms of how we do our work, to incorporate broader aspects of this challenge than we ever have. Because if we're going to get to 100% clean energy, which is where we have to go, then we're going to have to build a much broader coalition than we currently have. Our coalition will have to include coal miners who won't have a future in coal but need a clear and strong future in our economy. Our coalition will have to include people who work on oil and gas rigs all across the country. It'll have to include poor people. It'll have to include communities of color, Native American communities, particularly those communities who have been locked out of the growth in this economy over the last 50 years. In order to build the coalition that we need, and in order to advance solutions that work and that last, our policies and our rhetoric and the way in which we organize and the partnerships that we establish on the ground matter more than ever. And so a lot of that involves changing, or I should say evolving, how we do the work that we do and who we talk to who we invite to our meetings, what rallies we show up for, the degree to which we're putting our efforts into ailing or helping to bring aid to our ailing democracy. How do we work on voting rights, which are being eroded in a lot of places across the country, at the same time that we're advancing clean energy jobs? How do we make sure that those clean energy jobs are good jobs, family-sustaining jobs, at the same time that we want those clean energy sources to compete with gas, so we can phase gas out, or compete with nuclear power, or certainly to compete with coal?